Dan Illman, Mike Beer taking a look at race number 3 at Aqueduct on Saturday. New York bred 2-year-olds on display in the Notebook, going 3/4 of a mile. Let's take a look at this field. It's not a big field, but it's a pretty competitive group of 2-year-old New York breds. Wesley Ward has 2 in here. The 4 Phoebe and Wonderland, pretty impressive debut winner at odds on. Shoot It True was a very impressive debut winner who was dropping out of a stakes race. But both of these 2-year-olds are coming off fairly significant layoffs.
Yeah, 2 fillies entered against the boys here. I wonder if you'll get only one of them in this race, Dan. We'll see what Ward decides to do, but they're both off of near 200-day layoffs in this spot as they try Colt. I don't think you have to worry about them entered against boys, Dan. That's all they've done is run against Colts so far.
Let's throw up the Timeform US pace projector. They're Ward trainees. We would expect speed. Phoebe and Wonderland, the number 4. We don't have a pace projector really for Phoebe and Wonderland, but the 5 Shoot It True is going to be close. Man in Finance showed speed. Kenny B showed speed. I think Man in Finance is the key to the pace, Mike, because this horse looked good prompting in his debut on the outside. Drawing the rail, I think they got to go.
Yeah, I know. I'm with you on that. He's sort of the key here because he certainly seemed like he had easy speed on the debut. I mean, that pace wasn't that fast, and he just sort of sat there on the outside. They probably have to play it differently, breaking from the rail here, Dan. And there are some fast horses to his outside in here.
Man in Finance is trained by Danny Gargan, and let's watch the stretch run of his career debut. He was bet to 5-1 in an 11-horse field. That's Kenny B on the inside. Man in Finance has been pressing him throughout. He's going to wander to the outside under left-handed urging under Rivera, but he soon straightens himself out and goes on to win by open lengths while beating 2 next out winners, one of them being Kenny B. This is a likable debut.
Yeah, he ran really, really well in here. He did get a good trip, but and of course we'll get to Kenny B in a minute, but he came back and improved leaps and bounds out of this race. But he just buried that horse, Dan. Sat to his outside, came for him and raced him into the stretch, easily put him away. Very, very impressive win there, and he got a figure for it. You know, there are things working against him here, but who's going to be surprised if this horse is just, too good for these horses even now?
I wonder if the 2 in the chase has underrated early speed. He sure showed it in his
Yeah.
career debut at Saratoga, winning at 3/4 of a mile. They've thrown him against Stakes Company in his last 3 races. And in his last 2, he just hasn't gotten the cleanest of starts. He was wired last time out at Finger Lakes. Maybe Manny Franco's going to try to get aggressive with this horse. And I still think he's got some untapped potential.
I agree with you that he's probably pacing this race. We'll see if he's fast enough. He certainly had good speed in his debut when he wired that field at Saratoga. His second start, the funny side, he made the lead in there. I personally didn't think he had some kind of big excuse. To me, he just wasn't good enough for the 1-2 finishers. And one of those horses is, of course, back in this race. So we'll see if he's, that much improved since then. Because he has to have moved forward since then. I know that it's 3 straight stakes races, but this race is as tough as any of those. Even though, listen, they got back to dirt last time. He bumped into a good one in Bold Fortune.
Soon-to-be king finished second in the funny side that Mike was talking about, then finished second in his next 2 starts, both stakes races, one at Finger Lakes, and then one going a 1-turn mile in the Sleepy Hollow, where he's no match for a pretty good one. Odds on Sacrosanct, and soon-to-be king just sort of fell far behind early. He's going to pick up the pieces to finish a non-threatening third. It was nice to see him run at the end of this race. I don't mind him cutting back to 3/4 in a race with pace. He's going to get the right setup in here, and his Buyer's speed figures are really not that far off some of the top contenders.
Yeah, and it feels like maybe he has one more forward move in him, Dan. I mean, you're not going to bet him off of this race, although he does put in, a late run there to get up for third. But I don't think you're going to bet him off of that. But you could be betting him off the cutback here into a race with some pace. He's obviously got a little bit of an experience edge on his main rivals in here. I'm still a big fan of his, and I feel like it's just not going to happen for at least for me and him together. That funny side, 3 starts back, he ran great there. That was a really tough beat for him. It's also a race where he's probably got to win there. I mean, he got a really good trip. He made the lead in the stretch, and he could not hold off Moplex at the end.
Wesley Ward has ruled the roost with 2-year-old first-time starters for many, many years now. And here's Phoebe in Wonderland making her debut as an early 2-year-old back on May the 10th over a muddy track. Not surprisingly, the Ward trainee was odds on. She's chasing. She's still got some work to do at the 8th pole, and she is very, very game to get by this leader. Soon-to-be king finishes 3rd.
Yeah, soon-to-be king was green in this race, but he runs on. This filly did a lot of good things in this race, Dan, because it was typical Ward first-time starter, had speed, but was outrun to the lead in that race by the runner-up Out on Bail, who, by the way, I know he's a turf horse now, but he's turned out to be pretty good. He's a stakes winner. They ran him. They had him entered at the Breeders' Cup anyway. I mean, for her to get beaten to the lead by that horse, have to chase him all the way around the track, and then still close him down at the end after that horse had cut the corner on her to get some separation. I just thought she did a lot of good things there, even though it comes back with a relatively light figure.
Shoot on True was a debut winner for Wesley at Keeneland, going 4.5 furlongs, was 2-5 that day and made it look like a bargain. 3 strides out of the gate, it was over. It was typical Wesley Ward, first-time starter, Keeneland spring meet. They then ran this horse back in the Kentucky Juvenile against the boys, and not surprisingly, off that debut, she was odds on, but she just got caught up in a very wicked pace battle and paid the price. Now Wesley's taking the blinkers off. She draws outside some of the other speeds. She's been freshened up. I still think there's something here.
I do too. We'll see how ready she is off the layoff, because it's not like when you look Ward up in Formula, it's not like he has great numbers off of layoffs like this, but it kind of feels like everything else about her are things that you can really get behind, beginning with her talent. I mean, as you've already pointed out, her debut, that was serious stuff, man. That was big speed in there. She romped in that race, and then had I thought, a valid excuse in the stakes race second time out. I don't love the layoff here. If you go back through a work tab, there are a couple of stops and starts there. Like maybe this long layoff wasn't by design. He was trying to get her going and he couldn't, but she's been on the tab since October 1st. If she comes back with any improvement in here, Dan, I think she can beat this field.
She was 4th in the Kentucky Juvenile. The 6th-place finisher bounced right back to win a stakes race over the synthetic surface at Woodbine with a 66 Beyer speed figure. We saw Kenny B couldn't go with Man in Finance in the career debut, although it sure was nice to see that early speed. Well, Kenny B found a spot without Man in Finance, and Kenny B looked like Man in Finance, going right to the lead and then drawing off and earning a big Beyer speed figure of 85. The pace wasn't very fast, but really I wonder, yes, Kenny B did improve, but didn't you just flatter Man in Finance?
He certainly flattered Man in Finance, there's no doubt, but now he also has an extra race of experience on that rival as he steps up, so that could be a good thing. He's also drawn to the outside, so it's not like they have to send him in here. So I don't think that necessarily has to be his running style, Dan. We'll see how it plays out going forward. That pace wasn't fast in the video we just watched, but this horse wasn't loose in there. I mean, they came after him up the backstretch all around the turn. They made him race for it. He just put those horses away and was much the best with the figure. And by the way, it's great to see that David Duggan is getting horses this year. He's finally got some stock and they are winning.
3 Bs is the number 7. This horse ran a very underrated race in his career debut, finishing strongly, galloping out well, showed improvement in the second start, and then put it all together with a very game performance, going 6.5 furlongs. He was up and on the pace throughout in a big field. He's in between horses in the stretch, and he simply refuses to lose. And one of the also-rans came back to place in a state-bred stake at Finger Lakes with a 71 Beyer. This horse is game. He's getting better, and I think he's well drawn on the outside.
Yeah, he is. Another one too. Like, listen, the figures so far suggest he's probably not good enough to beat this field, but he did some good things in that race. I mean, they made him earn that victory, and he was up for it all through the stretch, in between horses, not letting those horses get by him. I liked that performance last time. He's got to do better than that against this field.
Let's take a look at our top selections. For the notebook, you can go so many different ways in here. You're going with Shoot It True. Again, I think this horse is the speed of the speed. I know Timeform US has Man in Finance up there. I think if Shoot It True shows the gas that she showed in her first 2 starts, she's in front.
That's how I looked at it too. It's one of the reasons I have her on top. I think the other main reason, Dan, is because, listen, Man in Finance and Kenny B, they've got the figures in here that sort of stand out, but I'm not so sure that they tower over these horses. And if they get bet off of those figures, I would just kind of rather take someone else. I don't love Shoot It True in this race, but I do think she fits well here. And I do think there's a chance she makes the lead.
And your second choice, Soon to Be King, might get the right race flow if his pace is hot. And he's been nothing but consistent throughout his entire career. I was taken with Man in Finance's debut. I wouldn't go short on him at the tote, though. I think 5-2 is fair. And to be perfectly honest, with that Beyer speed figure and that giant margin of victory, I'm not sure I'm getting 5-2 in here. So I might just sit out the notebook. But I'm going 1-6-3-7. Mike's going 5-3-1-6. One of 2 stakes races. The Big A on Saturday is race number 3. Good luck.
Hey, buddy. Let me tell you something. If you really enjoyed this great content, just click the like and subscribe button right here. And if you enjoy the race of the day, stakes previews and lots more starring me, please click right here. You're not gonna regret it.